This Thursday marks the 30th anniversary of the 1995 referendum, and all this week we're taking a look back. As we've learned this week, and I'm thinking in particular of our interview with Jean Chrétien advisor Eddie Goldenberg, there was a lot of anxiousness in the no camp ahead of the vote. The no side was trailing in the polls, and there was palpable fear the country would be torn apart. And then a rally happened on October 27, 1995, with an estimated 100,000 people from across the country showing up at Place du Canada in Montreal, pleading with Quebecers to vote no in the referendum. Brian Tobin, the then Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, was one of the main organizers of the Unity Rally, and he joins us now. Mr. Tobin, Brian, tremendous pleasure to have you on the show.
My pleasure to be with you this morning.
Does it feel like yesterday still?
Well, I'm tempted to say it does, but I look in the mirror and realize that 30 years have passed by, and a lot of water has flowed under the bridge. But you know, it's interesting. On the one hand, it was 30 years ago. On the other hand, we have circumstances dancing and moving and shaping in Quebec today that would suggest that if a certain outcome occurred in the next election, which must be within a year, you've got a leader once again, as was the case back decades ago, promising that in the first mandate of a majority government, there will be yet a third referendum on sovereignty for Quebec, which is very disappointing to hear, because it's such a rupture in a society and such a loss of good energy in negative contribution.
Certainly,
at a time when Canada needs to pull together and Quebec needs to be strong within Canada.
And it certainly shows how history repeats itself. It does tend to repeat itself. Yes. So if we could look back to 30 years ago, and in particular your role with the Unity Rally. Why did the rally come about? What was happening behind the scenes where decisions made, we have to do something, and this was one of the things that was done? What was happening behind the scenes?
Yeah, I'd like to tell you it was a large, sophisticated, operation that involved many, many people, and that it was well considered and thought out, and so on and so on. The reality is that I think there were a lot of people outside of Quebec, the rest of Canada, as we are called, the Rock, and I was one of them, who really felt that Mr. Bouchard, Lucien Bouchard, was incredibly effective as he came into the campaign, as he was named as chief negotiator, as he effectively became the leader of the Yes campaign. He was preaching a message that was, I thought, very effective. He was saying to Quebecers, our friends in English Canada, who of course will make a new arrangement with us, they're just so tired of us talking about sovereignty. They're tired of us not being able to make up our minds. I'm sure they just want us to give a clear answer, and it's time to be clear and to give a clear answer. And let's do it, and after that, we'll be friends again with folks in English Canada, because frankly, they've gotten to the point where they don't care anymore. They just want an answer. That's what he was saying. And I was hearing it, and I believed in my soul that he was being quite effective with his message. Let's just clear the air was what he was saying other things as well. And I'd heard there was going to be a small business rally, business initiated rally in Montreal. And I just thought, we've got to counter this narrative that people in the rest of Canada don't care. They're not interested. They're fed up. They could care less what happens. And so was born the idea of beginning to reach out to many people across the country, and to say, please come to Montreal, wave the Canadian flag, wave the Quebec flag, talk about how important Quebec is within Canada, not outside of Canada. It was a proposal that I put to cabinet. It was unscheduled. It wasn't on the cabinet agenda. You can imagine there were some of my colleagues from Quebec who were quite nervous about, quote unquote, intervention from outside the province at that critical moment in the campaign. But I had access to many polls, some of which were public, some of which were not, that demonstrated that virtually all the polls showed that we were behind. The no side were behind a week before the week, 10 days before the referendum, and I thought something dramatic had to happen to demonstrate the importance of Quebec within Canada, number one, and number two, to give the Federalists within Quebec a reason to get a shot of energy, to get out to the polls, to make every vote count, et cetera, et cetera. And so the idea of a rally was born, and I put a kind of a command and control system within my Department of Fisheries and Oceans, my political staff. I reached out to many political leaders across the country, raised funds for transportation, for trains, planes, automobiles, buses, and asked people to use their skills at organizing people, motivating people to be in Quebec, to be part of making a statement about the importance of unity in Canada. And of course, it was a risky venture. I can tell you, I was a pretty nervous guy, looking down upon that incredible square, wondering if people would show up, but then watching as the morning went on, that square began to fill, and the huge demonstration of Canadian unity in that square. And remember, it wasn't just filled with people who were coming from outside of Quebec, although there were many who came from outside Quebec, but many Quebecers came out too, and joined in that celebration of Canada, of Quebec within Canada. So I thought it was a critically important moment when you remember that every poll had us losing, and that we only won by 50,000 votes in a 93 or 4% turnout, the highest turnout of any election or referendum in Canadian history. And we won by that much. Then yes, that rally, that demonstration mattered a great deal, I think, in the ultimate outcome.
We're with the Honourable Brian Tobin, one of the main organizers of the Unity Rally in 1995, ahead of the Quebec referendum, was a cabinet minister in Jean Chrétien's government. As you mentioned, the margin right there, Mr. Tobin, I guess I have to ask you if you think, knowing it ended up 50.58% to 49.42%, do you think your rally was the deciding factor to sway Quebecers oh so closely to pick Canada?
I would never say that one thing or another was the deciding factor, but I think it is clear that all of the polling in the days leading up to that rally showed a yes win was about to occur. Polls could all be wrong. And the final result had the no side winning by the number you just said. So yes, I think it was an important event. It was a critically important event, and I think the importance was as much in saying to those who wanted to remain and work within a united Canada that people cared, that all across the country people took the time, the effort, the energy to come to Quebec to express their feelings of the importance of Quebec and Quebec's contribution to Canada. But I also think it was a burst of energy for a campaign that was a bit lethargic,
to this
campaign that was feeling a bit defeated, and a campaign that needed, in the end, a shot of energy to say, let's get out the vote, let's make every vote count, let's not give up, let's fight to the end. And I think that was part of the importance of that rally and allowing that to happen.
In the minute we have left here, to this day, the rally's controversial. You have separatists who say you weren't playing by the rules. You mentioned the buses and the cars and everything to get people into Montreal. Looking back 30 years later, did you have to cheat at all in order to get it done?
No, not at all. I think the notion that one province, whether it's Alberta, whether it's Quebec, whether it's Ontario, whether it's Newfoundland, that one province can end this incredible experiment called Canada, and that nobody else in the country has any right to say anything. You have to sit back as a mute observer of the end of your country. That notion is silly. It's ridiculous. It's undemocratic. And so if there were, again, a moment in time where, wherever it might happen in Canada, somebody wanted to end this incredible gift called Canada, I'd have no hesitation about telling you that I would do everything I could, in any way I could, obviously within the law, to make sure that the voice of people who believe in Canada and what it means to the world is heard. Look, we are living through a moment today in terms of our relationship south of the border with the United States, where if we don't now understand the incredible value of Canada. We never will. Ask ourselves a basic question. Could the reality of Quebec, with its own language, with its own culture, with its own society distinct, could it exist anywhere outside of the envelope of something very special called Canada? If Canada were to go away, would Quebec as we know it continue to function? I think it's a question worth asking, especially when you've had a president openly speculating about turning all of Canada's 10 provinces, including Quebec, into one single state in a U.S. union.
You are still a tremendous voice for federalism and Canada. Thank you so much for taking the time to reminisce about what happened 30 years ago.
My pleasure, Elias. Thank you.
That's the Honourable Brian Tobin there. He's one of the main organizers behind the Unity Rally and, of course, a cabinet minister in the Chrétien government.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.